Hello students, today we will study about the security in the contemporary world. So in this we will explore about the different notion of security, like traditional notion and non-traditional notion, and what are the different components in that, and what are the new security threats in the whole world, and how India is dealing with the security issue, and how what is the India's strategy for its security. So all these things we are going to discuss in this unit. So let's begin with this topic of security in the contemporary world. So first we need to understand what is security and what it's imply. So the security implies freedom from the threat for the human existence. So this implies safeguard or safety for the human existence or for its territory or for the other infrastructure that are the part of human environment. So that's all imply the security. Now let's come to the next slide. The traditional notions or external notion. So this traditional notion is one of the concern of security. Now the first is state centric. So what this means? It means that state was a center in providing the security, because in you can take the example of India, where the government is responsible for the law and order. So that's how state center government or state specific safeguard the security of the country. It's also safeguards its territory sovereignty from the external threat. Like India during earlier period we witnessed the Indo-China wars or Indo-Pakistan wars. So what is that? It was the example of threat to the India's territory. So that's how India tried to safeguard it through the expelling or through the fighting war with the enemy countries or the countries that came for the attack over the country. So that's how we need, for that matter, what we need the military strength and alliances. So with this military strength we try to safeguard our territorial integrity, and with these things we try to safeguard our nation interest, because our nation is the nation interest was the foremost thing that we, or as a central government, everyone try to do firstly. So this is the traditional notion or external factor that was responsible for the India's security. So the main role in that is military has a main role. Military threat from the other country, it's create a great danger, not only in form of territorial integrity but also for the civilian or the for the humanity also, because it's not only affects the military groups or any government, it's also affect the normal civilians to the country also. So that's how with this military action we try to safeguard our endangered sovereignty and independence. So in that matter, what is the component of traditional security? So we had three choices if something that happened from the military attack of the other country. So what we can do in that sense? First, we have three choices. Either firstly we had to surrender, either we do surrender, or we try to prevent these military attacks, or we try to third one is or we try to defend ourselves. So these are the three options we had in front of traditional security components. And the other thing is, so these three factors were played very important role. Or you in this example you can take the example of India and China war, or you can take the example of India Pakistan war, where somewhere India tried to defend itself and also tried to attack the enemy country. So these are the things in the traditional security. And what next thing that is a component of traditional security is a balance of power. What does it means? So through the balance of power we try to create a stabilized relation with other countries, like through the stabilized relation, so that none of the country try to attack other country through the military ways or other ways. We try to create some sort of relation, a balanced relation with the our neighboring country. So this was the other thing in the balance of power. In the, even though not only in case of India, in world politics you also see that the whole world tried to create a balance, so that there was no such world war sort of thing going to so happen in the near future. So this was also one of the example of balance of power. And the third thing is the alliance building. As words imply, what does it means? So alliance building is a some sort of coalition of the states or the coordination. So it's try to create a defense against the military attack. It's also based on the national interest of the country. So some country try to create some sort of alliances for its nation interests. So that's how this alliance building also play important role in the traditional notion in the external ways. You can take the example of USA. Like even though it's also called that USA sponsored terrorism in earlier phases, not Pakistan. How I'm saying this, because in earlier phase when there was no Al Qaeda, there was no attack, US backed the Islamic militant against the Soviet Union. So you know how the earlier classes we understood all these things between clashes between the Soviet ideology and US ideology. So you know how these country had against each other on the different platform. So that's why US uh, try to sponsor this militant group against the Soviet Union in Afghanistan region. But later on, when this 9/11 act happened, earlier classes we studied about it in detail also, ki what this 9/11 attack, when this 9/11 attack happened, and in the center of America. So it's so after that, when this happened, so this notion created a completely different picture in the mind of America. Now America started a call called global war on terrorism. So now the America stand on terrorism was totally different. So that's how this alliance building used to change with the nation interest of their country. Later on, even we see how Osama bin Laden was killed by the America military operation. So these all things in the alliance building, and how, or even you can say these all traditional notion like components of it, like balance of power or a military attack or counter military attack or alliance building, all these happen, or we can say all these goes to only one root, that is called nation interest. Everything, even we used to say these things, everything is below the nation interest is above everything. So first or foremost thing for us, or in international relation, is our nation interest. So every country try to complete or try to change its nation interest. So these are the main things in the traditional notion or external factors. Now let's come to the next slide. What are the internal factor? Traditional notion, internal factors. Earlier we studied about the external factor. What are the internal factor? Internal factor, in the internal factor, first thing is law and order. You know how law and order can change the picture of any country, or and push it to a political disability. So this all things was started with the security issue on the internal front, not only in the nation border. So that's how they try to emphasize on law enforcement agency. Like without police we cannot, if police removed from the internal states stabilization, so you can see how things can be led to a lot of havoc in the state. So that's how maintaining law and order was also one of the very important factor in the state. It sometimes also led to the internal military conflict, where we are not where we do not had a conflict with other state, but within itself also. You can take the example of Pakistan. What Pakistan dealing? Pakistan not only dealing with the external front, even in the Pakistan internal front also there was a lot of conflict between the sectarian conflict, Shia Sunni, or a lot of other states of Pakistan also also creating some of internal issues. So these internal conflicts also creates a very much instability in the state. So this is also one thing. Even after the Second World War, this issue of civil war or internal war was very on a high, very high pace. So this also creates one of the issue. So what, how we can deal with, what is the addressing the internal threat. So what our primary goal, what we need to do, we need to not only prevent but to suppress this internal threat and creates a stability. So this also involved loyalty and control of the armed forces and government on this front also. And one interesting thing that happened after the Second World War is from 1946 to 1991, since the Cold War ended, 12-fold rise in the number of civil war in last 200 years was seen. It was seriously a high jump, and it's created a serious challenge, because we have earlier studied how different front war wars started. A lot of African region were dealing with the humanitarian crisis. So these all creating a lot of issues in the states, a lot of internal issues that was also not only affecting their internal matter, but also other country was also involved in this. US involved in the on many fronts, USSR involved in many fronts. So these are also the issue in the internal matter. So this traditional internal matter also somehow connects with the external matter, because if any state dealing with the internal issue, so the attacks from the other countries of external threat also increase with the internal threat. So these are the issue in the traditional internal notion. And now let's come to the next thing, the traditional security and cooperation. So what does it means? So for dealing with all such issue, security issue, we need a cooperation. We need cooperation between the government of different countries, and we also need a cooperation with the civilian population of the state for the internal security. So these are the different sort of cooperation was needed in internal or external front. So the first thing is multilateralism. What does it means? So after the Second World War, a traditional cooperation that was earlier seen now turned into a international cooperation, where what we need to check on the security issue. So a lot of new organization formulated, like established, like NATO came into existence, although it was a military cooperation, and later on United Nations was formed, so that there was no, later on much of the issues state in the different states started. Even on the regional front also, like a lot of organization, we studied about SARC, we studied about ASEAN. So why these organization was formulated? So these organization was established for the cooperation between the different ones. Some of these were the regional bodies, and some of were formed for the international cause. So this is the one thing, that is multilateralism, because the cooperation, every country now understands the usefulness, or we can say now understands the importance of cooperation between the countries, because no one's ready for a third world war, and no one's wanted to lose their man and material. So everyone, now the next priority of this country is the cooperation between themselves. So these are the first thing, multilateralism for all. Now let's come to the next slide about arms control. So what does it means, arms control? Arms control means, we had studied that how this US USSR conflicts led to the unarmed race between these two big powers. So a lot of new experiments were started happening, a lot of new nuclear armaments, and the production was increased in nuclear and military weapon. So this also created a danger for the human existence. So that's led a new voice of arm control. So with the arm control, what they try to do, say, with this arm control they try to um, uh, either they try to complete disarmaments, or they try to limit the use of nuclear weapon, or they do not want it to expand it more. So all these things led to the a lot of international laws for the disarmament or the arm control. And the first is important with the NPT proliferation non-proliferation treaty of 1968. So because of five big power or five permanent veto power has this nuclear weapon, now they do not wanted to expand the use of nuclear weapon, so they wanted a NPT, although India called it very discriminatory and denied to sign it. So it was the first one. And later on, even strategic arm reduction treaty start was also signed between the US and USSR. So it's also one of the treaty that's, and even though today its importance was very less, because one of the important big power was withdrawal from this treaty. So it was also started with the at that time. And later on, like anti-ballistic missile treaty of 1972, so it was also signed at that time. Biological weapon convention of 1972, so that there was no biological weapon will be created after that. Or chemical weapon convention of 1992. So why all these weapon armaments disarmament treaty was started? Because now the country wanted to limit the use of nuclear weapon, and not wanted to expand the use of nuclear armaments. Even they try to promote the use of nuclear only for the civilian use, for the energy production, or for the other thing. They not wanted to use for the military purposes. So these are the things that started with the these law. Or even India later on experimented its nuclear weapon, but Nehru earlier advocated for the complete disarmament of the nuclear weapon or the nuclear missiles. So these all the issues was started, and these led to the lot of international law and convention on these front. I hope you understand these things. Now let's come to the next slide. The non-traditional notions. What is non-traditional notions? So this mean not only military. In this non-traditional notion, we need to understand, now with the time changing, a lot of new issue was emerging in a country. It's not related with the only earlier like military attack or nuclear attack or missile. So a lot of new things with emerging with the globalization, we can say, or with the development of the uh, with the development phase, a lot of new non-traditional notions in the security was also coming into the picture. The first thing is interconnectedness. So this interconnectedness between the country, or we can say the globalization connected the countries together, it's led a lot of new global security threat. Like in 1990, uh, uh, like global warming was started, climatical issues, terrorism was on its peak at the time, health epidemics like AIDS, bird flu, and so on. So what is happening with these new challenges was emerged, it's also created a no, or demanded a new solution to this problem. So these all things were started, and these all called what global issues, because if these disease or these things were started in one place, with the connectedness of the country, or the, we can say, that one globe traveling, or we can say the traveling leads to the widespread of the disease or pandemic. And this environmental challenge is not a cause of one country, or USA or China or India. So now the global warming is not a subject of one country, and terrorism affecting everyone. Even USA was a one of the USA also sees seen the terrorism in its home. So these are things now led to the a lot of new challenge, and that's why it's called non-traditional notions. And the human security also a concern, because with this rise of terrorism, a lot of a new challenge to the started in the human security, or human threat also started with this suicide bomber. So all these things led to the a lot of human security issue. And later on, with the time passes, a lot of new things that seen, that key not only people were killed by the some suicide bomber or from the another state military, but also their own government killing the people, because UN Secretary Kofi Annan puts that the protection of community and individual from the internal violence is our foremost concern. What does it means with the rise of civil war in the different front, like in Africa, or we see in the Kazakhstan region in 2001. So all these internal civil wars led to the killing of a lot of civilian people in those fronts. So this issue was also starting and led to the question on human security. So these all the notion, or these are the challenges in front of the non-traditional notion in the security matters. And this also led to a new thing. What does it means? It leads to the shift from a traditional state centric notion to a broader interconnected thread that transcend the national boundaries. Now these things are new challenges, issues not limit the one country or one nation, but it's led to a it's needed a cooperation with the whole world. So these are the things were started at the time. Now let's come to the next slide. The source of, or we say new source of threat. As I mentioned, the terrorism was one of the issue, the first very important issue. So this terrorist group poses a lot of threat for the global security. They target civilians population, they targets infrastructure. So this some of the militant, very famous militant group, Al Qaeda, Al Gaddafi, later on a lot of IS. So these later on also emerged with the funding of some of the, they had a lot of funding. They are also indulging illogical activities like smuggling arms, weapons. So all these things were started. This led to uh, a lot of effects on the international platform, a lot of new threat to the whole world. And this world trade building attack by the Al Qaeda was one of the very famous and one of the very renowned example of terrorism. Even in India, we witness a lot of terrorist attack, like in Taj attack. What happened when Kasab was captured and was given a death sentence. And the other thing, that Bombay riots, a lot of suicide bomber was very prevalent at that time. So these are things were the faces of terrorism, or some of the example of terrorism. So this terrorism created one of our most threat for the whole world. And the second thing is the human right. With these rise of terrorism, or the rise of these activities, a lot of violation of human right were started, and a lot of new issue was also there, like genocide, persuasion, also a new threat for the human being. Even when some of the countries involved in invasion, or like Iraq invasion of Kuwait, or for example the Rwanda suicide genocide that happened, military killing in East Timor region. So all these things questions the humanity itself. And even although we had UN at the time, but UN was not very effectively solve these issues. So these are also some of the failure of UN. And the third one is the global poverty, because poverty, we see how poverty creates malnutrition and deficiency, and a lot of disease emerging in not only in one region or one territory, but the whole Southeast Asia and Africa was dealing with the malnutrition. Children was lacking blood or anemia. They had, like, women were dealing with a lot of issues. Or so these all things led to the global poverty or health issues. So there was half of the world population, mostly in Southeast Asia or Africa region, there was no enough food, and this created a lot of poverty issue because most of the people living below the living standard. So all these things was there. And the health epidemics after post cold era, you all know what health epidemics is, and how it can affect and how much it can affect someone, not only health but also its economy, its psychology, its mental health. So we all know with this post covid era what is the health pandemic. A lot of new crisis was emerged after that. And how this is started, this health pandemic was seen as an example of AIDS, bird flu, and now there are a lot of new diseases with the mutation of different viruses, and not a lot of new disease was emerging, covid-19, or a lot of new other disease was emerged later on. So these are the new, or we can say a new source of threat for the human securities. And now let's come to the next slide, is cooperative security. What does it means? The first is multilateralism. So cooperation is very important between the countries to deal with this new threat to the human security or for the security sake. So first thing is the multilateralism. With these platform, with the different platform, country are coming together, because now this new security challenge is not dealing with the one country. So a lot of organization created international level for the dealing such issue, like World Health Organization dealing with the health issues, World Bank or IMF dealing for the financial cost or economic restructuring, a lot of NGOs, Amnesty International, UNHCR, Red Cross. So these are also providing the assistance to the humans. And diplomacy and dialogues. So now everyone knows, the if one country attacks another country, if there any war happening, what it's led to only loss of man and material. So now this, they need a peaceful resolution of the conflict with the table talks. So this also led to the a lot of it's also led to the promoting stability. So this all, what does it require? So it's require communication with the country, understanding and willingness to cooperate. So all this cooperation and diplomacy dialogues provided by these platform like UN or ASEAN regional level, SARC. So this is how this diplomacy and dialogues try to prevent the war clouds. So these are the things at the time. And the next thing is sustainable development, because we all wanted to sustain, we all wanted to live and to safeguard our resources for the future generation. So for what, for that all matter, what we need a cooperation between the countries, so that we safeguards our things, and to safeguard from the climate change or for the issue of environmental degradation. So for all that matter, what we need a cooperation of for the sustainable development. So these are the thing in this. And now let's come to the next thing, India's security strategy. So what is India's security strategy in this issue of security? So first thing is military modernization. You all know how military is important. In first thing what I taught you about, how military is very important for the safeguarding its territorial integrity. So that's why military modernization was very important. So India started, and after the Indochina and after 1970s, India started modernizing its weapon. Even today you see the example of BrahMos missile, a lot of new missile, or a lot of new submarine and other equipment, anti-ballistics missile. So all these things, what we are trying to do with this, we try to military modernization of the country, because India witnessed a long series of war after sudden after the independence. So and we had no very friendly neighboring countries. So for all that matter, what we need, firstly we need a military modernization. And now let's come to the next thing, is economic development. So India recognized the importance of economic development. You know how we can do our military modernization without the economic structure, or without the economic development. So for that matter, what we need, we started doing a lot of technological development, promoting inclusive growth, reducing poverty, or even you see the example of 5-year plans that were created just after the independence in 1951. First 5-year plan was created. So what we are trying to do with all these things is we trying to do economic development in the country with these plans. And these economic plans reflects in today's generation how India is dreaming to become one of the developed country by 2047. So this economic aspiration was started with the economic development plan in the country. And the third one is technological advancement. This technological advancement also ensures the India security, because with this traditional advancement we cannot experiment our nuclear weapon, we cannot start our security concern. So for all that matter, technology was very important. Even though India taken a lot of cooperation from the Russia, later on USA, for its security or for its technological advancement, but now India also going very ahead in terms of research and development. So all these things also contributes in the India's security strategy. And this last one is regional cooperation. So what does it means? So regional cooperation was also important, not only in India internal front also, but also external, because India has a lot of strong notion of regionalism. But in external front, like India is a part of Southeast Asia, so there are a lot of countries. So we need a cooperation between each other, because a lot of water issue or internal border disputes. So all these we need a cooperation of platform to talk on the different issue. So SARC and ASEAN was some of these organization for the Southeast Asian countries. So even though not only in regional front but international front also, India try to create cooperation with the different countries, or try to solve issue with more peaceful and an effective manner. And later on, you can see the example with 1997, that Kyoto Protocol was when came for the reduction of emission of greenhouse gases. Later on, India also accepted these. So these all thing was started with that. And one of the other thing, this new international economic order. So new international for the development and restructuring of economy of the least developing countries or developing countries. So India tried to also cooperate with that platform also. So all these is the India strategy to deal with the different issue on the India front. So with these all these intervention or all these efforts, India tried to safeguard its security. And we somehow says that India very successfully or very effectively safeguards its territory, even though we have a issue with our border, but the India security was very high on those front. Now these are the some of the MCQ question I have framed for this topic. Like you can see the first question: which of the following threat to the global security? You all know terrorism. So these are the some of the question I have framed, and PYQ question was also there. So you should try this question and try to practice more and more question for the better understanding. So I hope you understood with all this topic what is security, what is traditional external factor, internal factor, and how it affects the country, and how what is India stand for the its security. So all these things there. I hope you all understand. So we are done with the today's topic.